Welcome to Uncle Jimmy's podcast. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the conversation.
What do you both think about fear?
I'm not in this world to live up to your expectations. I'm here to live up to mine.
He who is not courageous enough to take risks will accomplish nothing in life.
Fear is a teacher.
And I don't skip class.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, family. Welcome back to the show. Today, we've got a beautiful soul who is lighting up the world with tools to heal what's broken in our closest relationships. Laziena Hodge is the creator of Relationship Repair Language, a powerful, practical framework that blends emotional neuroscience, attachment theory, love languages, and the inner child work to help us feel safe again with ourselves and with the people we love. She's the author of the Relationship Repair Language, your blueprint for healing love, and she's on a mission to turn conflict, disconnection, and old wounds into deeper connection, trust, and emotional safety. Whether you're struggling in your marriage, parenting through chaos, healing from heartbreak, or just trying to stop repeating the same painful patterns, Laziena brings hope with tools you can actually use in the heat of the moment. Sister, your energy and your work are such a gift. Welcome to the podcast. We're so happy you're here.
Thank you for having me. I've always seen you post on the Facebook group, and I'm like, you know what? Let's go.
Always, always. I tell people, right? This is my platform, but this is your journey. So I'm so excited to have you on. So before we get into the framework, right, and all the powerful stuff you teach, I want to start here, right, with the first question. What's something you wish more people understood about why relationships hurt so much, even when we love each other deeply?
I wish that people knew that they have emotional needs. And when those things are happening, it's really just an unmet need that's under there. And I so wish that they knew about more curiosity rather than the shame of it.
Yeah. One of my biggest things, Laziena, is that I learned, right, that in a relationship, love's not everything. Love cannot sustain a relationship itself, right? And so many people think that, right? Like, oh, I'm in love with her, I'm in love with him, and that he loves me, and then it's going to magically work, right? But it doesn't. I hate to tell people that, right? And one of the biggest things people need to do is, it's like your home, right? Your home needs repairs, your home needs fixing, right? And sometimes a relationship does. It doesn't mean that it's broken, right? But it just means that you need to gain those tools, right? And have those heartfelt conversations, those deep conversations with your partner, right? First, let them know what you feel, right? Don't ever, shrink yourself down to not be who you are either, right? Because if you have to shrink yourself to be in a relationship, you shouldn't be in that relationship, right? So it's powerful, right? Because, connection and love, that's all we all want as human beings, right? We just want to be loved. But love can't sustain a relationship, a marriage just in itself.
It really, truly cannot, because we all have emotion. We have those moments and again, my book you mentioned goes into some inner child work. So what I've learned about myself is really what this framework has become, but also what I learned about my children as I observed them. And I understood that by the time we are 7, if our parents aren't on the healing journey or the other side of it, they pass the baton. And I witnessed that myself. So it's like, wait a minute. We all have emotional needs. We all have emotional impact, those emotional impact moments that happen in our childhood that was never acknowledged. And so when two people are arguing or in a difficult conversation, that's the unmet need that's speaking. So instead of fighting and making this, and that's another thing we do, we fight and then we make decisions in those moments. And then we end up spending years remembering the relational promises that was made, the good times. And then that one moment split us up. And now we have to, and again, the healing journey is great. But at the same time, it could be done with curiosity. It doesn't have to be, this is it, that's it. I'm gonna ghost, or I'm gonna pull away, or I'm gonna push you away. All of this avoidant attachment styles and anxiousness, it's all unmet needs. And once we are able to name what that unmet need is, we can have better communication and create relational safety and relational loyalty.
Yeah. And that's one of the biggest things that happened for me, right, Laziena? I was in a relationship and we broke up in September, and I was so mad, right, for the first week, and I kept blaming her in my head, right, and blaming her, and then kept blaming her. But then when I looked myself in the mirror, right, and finally came to that true moment of, right, not blaming her anymore, looking inward, right, and seeing my actions, right, my words, and seeing
Yeah.
my fault in the relationship, right? And being able to do that, right? The first thing I had to do was look myself in the mirror, forgive myself, right? Then forgive others and
Yeah.
start that journey, right? The journey of healing that people don't realize sometimes you're going to have to sit in a dark room or sit in your own thoughts and go through it, right? But it can be a powerful thing if you do it. And you can't heal, right, without doing the work.
Mm-hmm.
So many people think like, modern medicine will have you believe if you go to a therapist, you're cured, right? If you take your blood pressure medication, there's no more high blood pressure, right? You take your diabetes medication, diabetes goes away. No, it's not true. It's with the work that has to go with it, right?
Exactly.
And I love talking about this because I don't think too many men like to come out and talk about relationships and, how they do get, men, it's okay. You do get hurt in relationships, but also we need to take stock in our actions, right? Or inactions, right? My big thing was I was a word of mouth, right? I would always, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, but I could always say I'm going to do it, but I would never do it,
The
you
action.
know?
Yeah.
Yeah, there was, my action was running my mouth, and the inaction was in the result. The inaction of me doing anything was the end of my relationship, which
Yeah.
hurt. But figuring it out on my own that I was to blame, right? And
Yeah.
taking stock in all that. So, can you take us back, right? How did your own journey lead you to create relationship repair language?
Oh boy, here we go. So it was um April 19th, 2019. I got a phone call from my then ex-husband letting me know that he had a very inappropriate relationship with my daughter when she was 17. And my daughter had moved out when she was 18, and I was like, it all made sense as to why this was. And that essentially broke me because I didn't want my daughter to repeat my life cycle. I didn't want her, not that I had sexual abuse done, but not by a parent or a step parent. But it was just kind of like I was looking at my life and I was like, okay, this is my mother's life. My father was murdered when I was 8 and she was 38 with 3 children and needing to live life. So I was like this, I was determined to understand more. And so I got deeper into understanding me because when sexual abuse happens in family, it's not the survivor, just the survivor who's affected. It's the mother, it's the father, it's the siblings, everybody is affected. So
Everybody, yeah.
it made me take a deeper look at like, okay, what is my responsibility here? Because even though he did what he did, why didn't my daughter feel safe to come to me? And I was already kind of looking into the relationship, or sorry, the victim triangle and just to see how I show up in that, but I was still the victim. So I started going to a women's group every Monday night and we did the attachment style test. And at the time I didn't know how deeply rooted that was in relationships at all. I didn't have any concept of it. So when I took the test and I'm looking at it as did your partner do this or are you just the questions was geared towards partners, and I was like, wait, but this is all childhood stuff and it made sense. So what did I do to my children? So then I decided to go home and change the words instead of partner to caregiver, not knowing that that was initially what it already was. Because I was like, I
Already
wanted to
was.
know what I did. And so as I started learning about them and I'm learning about me, I was like, okay, from 0 to 3, this doctor, the psychotherapist said from 0 to 3, that's when we learn our emotional safety and our nervous system learns to feel regulated. And so if I take 5 people and we sit down at a table and we talk about what that experience was for us or what we could have possibly picked up from 0 to 3. None of us had parents. And again, this isn't blame, it's acknowledgement that we didn't have parents who had language to teach us what feelings were, what our emotions were, or how to even get through them because they were also figuring it out themselves or not even aware and in survival mode.
And
By age,
the same they probably had gone through the
exactly.
same revolving door, right? Repeating
Yeah.
how they were treated as children, right? Or not
Right.
treated as children, right? Not loved,
Yeah.
not cherished, not cared for, right? So they almost pass it down. Not that
Mhm.
they're doing it consciously, it's almost subconsciously because that's all they know.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like going back to those moments and acknowledging that there was a need here and it wasn't met, and how do I behave when that happens? So I just kept whatever work I kept doing with myself, I started to do with my children. I also attended a inner child workshop in Boca, and it's very experiential. It follows a lot of Alfred Adler's theory of inferiority and superiority and those childhood moments where we form a belief by the time we're 7, then by 13, our inner teen is the one who becomes protective. We're like, okay, I'm not ever accepting this, or this is never going to happen to me. And that's who leads our lives. That's who shows up in the workplace. It's who shows up in relationships. So every time I started noticing with my children, okay, we have the language, we understand each other's love languages, we understand our attachment style. But why is it that when we get into conflict, it's still such a big issue and we can't get over it? And that's when I started learning more about nervous system regulation. And it was my youngest daughter that I started to notice it with. Like her body language would get upset the first thing. As soon as I say something, her whole body would react. So I started to, pay more attention to that, along with what we learned at the inner child workshop. They all took it. I went through the course, and someone that I was dating also I practiced a lot of what we were going through, because it was like, okay, if I'm an avoidant, why am I pulling away? When I'm pulling away, why am I blaming? Why am I pushing away? Like, what is happening underneath there? So I started to understand that it was, anger meant that I wasn't feeling heard. And it's that little girl inside of me who learned that the only way I could feel heard is by being loud. That's the only way I could get attention. But then also it came with this shame that I'm ungrateful if I'm angry. So so I started thinking about, like, okay, so if I come with all of that, then every person that I meet when we are in conflict, that's what's showing up. And that's what's hurting the relationship. So what is it that we need to get through that? And as I sat with it, I realized that my youngest daughter, she needs more soothing. And that's how the languages start to come up. And my oldest daughter, she needed to how she related to me was being able to talk to me from her heart's desire. That says, Mom, I really want to be in connection with you, but whenever I'm trying to talk to you and you get defensive, it makes me feel like I'm not important, or it makes me feel like it's more about you than it is about me. So I was like, okay, well, let's give this a language so that it prevents the next argument. Or when we do end up arguing, we know we create that relational safety where we know that we are safe. We're still going to be here regardless. But whatever is happening during that repair phase, it's exploring it, because in order for us to be able to truly see what's underneath it, we have to let the emotions out. We have to let the anger out, the sadness, the blame, and the shame, so that we can get to that need that's underneath it. And how that relates to our nervous system. Like for me, I love accountability. So when someone comes to me and is able to reflect how their behavior has affected me, I'm already like, I'm ready to trust again. I'm ready to open up again. I'm ready to ride this through. So it's meeting beyond that point and looking at what's beyond the behavior and not just the behavior, and separating behavior from emotions as well. Because if we keep doing that and then we label people or we label ourselves, and we don't understand that we can go deeper and have more meaningful relationships. So the journey really started with me wanting to be a better parent and wanting to be overall a better person, because I didn't like the person that I was. I was very angry and abusive and very demeaning, and it just wasn't. It cost me my children. It cost me love.
Yeah.
It cost me a lot, like a whole lifestyle change.
Yeah, you lost yourself, now you're back to being your authentic self, right? And that's what I tell people
Exactly.
all the time. Be your authentic self. Don't shrink for anyone, never do that, because once you start shrinking, right, you're going to keep going, because once you
Mhm.
start, there's no stopping that, right? Because you get in a relationship and you start shrinking to fit the needs of your partner, right? And your partner can sense that and feel that, and they'll make you feel, they'll belittle you, make you feel like next to nothing, make you feel like you're not enough, right? And and,
Mhm.
and that's the hard thing. So, your sanctuary and table, right, was born straight from your own healing journey, rebuilding every part of yourself after feeling unseen and fractured. You noticed over and over that people who deeply care about each other still miss one another in conflict because they don't speak the same emotional language when the nervous system gets triggered. That
Mhm.
realization became relationship repair language, right?
Yeah.
So you built this from your own healing. Can you take us
Mhm.
back to a moment when you realized we're not missing we're not missing love, we're missing repair language.
Yeah. It was it's mostly my children, obviously, but my youngest daughter especially, she's the avoidant and I'm the avoidant. And she is my mirror. She's my teenager. That's how I end up meeting myself. So we knew that we would pull away from one another whenever there's conflict. So, and it would take like 4 weeks or 3 weeks for her to come to me. I would let her be, and sometimes I would even go to her and it would make it worse. So I was like, one day I was just thinking, I was like, okay, let me try and see if there's something different that I can do here. So I went to her and I was like, okay, what is it that you need right now? Like, what is the emotional need that's not being met? And she had no idea. And she just didn't know. She's like, I just don't know. And I was like, all right, let me try. Can I have permission to try something? And she gave me permission. So I sat next to her. She was on the bed and I hugged her. And as I was hugging her, I shared with her a moment where I also experience what she experienced. And when I did that, I could feel her entire body softened into me and she started to cry. And I could like literally feel that transition happening. And that's what made me kind of like start to look more like, okay, with her nervous system, whenever there's conflict, she gets very scared. So it may be better for me to text her than have a conversation face to face so she can read, she can settle in, and then we can come back and that's actually worked marvelously. We're
Yeah,
able
instead of
to
having the conversation, face to face where, a teenage daughter, sometimes it
yeah,
can go, you don't know which way it's gonna go. You can
yeah,
walk in, it will be a great conversation, or you can walk in and then doors will be slammed and she'll
yeah,
start yelling at you, right? So
yeah. And the
what did
repair
you see?
oh,
Oops, sorry. What'd you say?
I was gonna say, and the repair in that is also me taking responsibility as a parent because I still she wouldn't be that way if I didn't have a part in it. So what role did I play in it? I made her feel scared a lot. So being able to sit with her and then sharing that I didn't do it right and she didn't deserve that. And now that I'm here and I want to do it differently, I want to work with her and understand how we can do it differently. And it's going to be a trial and error, but I'm here. And so being able to give her that reassurance, I learned is speaking what also softens her up is that she just wants to know that no matter what during conflict, she's still loved and cared about. This is just something that's happening in the moment.
In the
So
moment, yeah.
that, yeah. So, I mean, I have plenty of examples of that, but this is kind of part of the repair. It's taking responsibility and also taking myself out of mom and listening with an empathic ear, with an empathic heart, that this is somebody else that I care about. And I genuinely care about what their experience was. Even if I don't agree with it or I knew that it was something that it wasn't my experience. I also know what it's like for me to not have my feelings acknowledged. And that to me what makes the relationship even safer.
Yeah. And it's all about making the kids safe, right? And the big thing you keep saying is responsibility, right? The
Mm-hmm.
responsibility that you have to take on. And that's big because some people don't take responsibility in anything.
Yeah.
So what did you see happening, right, in relationships, maybe your own, that made you say, "It has to be a better way than just communicating harder"?
Yeah, it's I've had two marriages and one what I considered major relationships. And as I looked, like you said something earlier about, I had to take a look at myself and how I showed up.
Yeah.
Now, conversations and tone matter. So if I am an avoidant and my partner has given me reassurance, but I don't know how to receive that reassurance, and I behave and I'm pushing them away and I'm getting in my car and I'm driving off and I'm not communicating my needs or I'm not staying when it gets hard. That is me not only abandoning them, I'm also abandoning myself, but in relational responsibility, we're not just gonna so we go on these personal development journey, right? And we learn that here we are self-sacrificing or we're not setting boundaries or we're just allowing people to treat us in certain kinds of way. But in that sense, we're only looking at it as how people are treating us. We're not also looking at what that moment is like for you. So let's say that you and I were in conflict. My tone matters. My tone may have triggered something in your nervous system that says, this person's a red flag. They're not safe. at that moment, I am not going to be heard. I'm not going to be witnessed. I'm not going to be understood because I have the responsibility to show up for you too, or show up for the relationship, to show up for that safety in there. So if I'm driving off in the car and you have abandonment wounds, literally, even though that was not my intention, that is what happened. I abandoned you in that moment. I abandoned the relationship. So you have no other experience outside that says, you know what, she keeps doing this. She just is doing that. So it's those moments where and I have this belief that people leave when it gets hard. And that is what I experienced. The moment that it gets hard, that's when I was just having a conversation the other day with the gentleman, and I was sharing with him that whatever the conversation was happening, this is how I'm receiving it. And he automatically was like, well, you're not giving me any grace. You're not showing me any compassion. And I'm like, me staying here and sharing and of course, I didn't do it like I used to and yell and scream. I was literally just continue the conversation. I want to be curious about this. And it's still, for him, it became that I was leaving. And that's how
Yeah.
it played out. And I can understand why that felt that way. So having a name for what we need when we are in conflict really does make a difference, because now we're working toward, we're focused on solving the thing instead of fighting each other. We're not fighting
Got
each
it.
other anymore. We're gonna understand what's underneath, because underneath is a little boy who was not modeled what being a man is, and he had to become a man very, very early, carry responsibility, responsible for his whole entire legacy, and doing it right and showing up for another woman or whatever family that is, depending on his lifestyle. And then there's this little girl who maybe never had the male figure in her life that shows up for her.
Yeah.
And there's so much things that we learn subconsciously. Our father energy is what teaches us how to love ourselves, how to value us. And our mother energy teaches us how to nurture others. So we never had those displayed healthily for us. It can go so sideways. I had men on a pedestal because I loved my grandfather. And when I see his qualities in other men, I would just I was just and then when my needs weren't being met, and again, I didn't know my needs. I have all these unmet needs. I don't know what they are, but you, Jimmy, you're responsible for meeting them. And if you don't meet them, I'm going to punish you for it. That's
Yeah.
the thing that goes underneath it that I just didn't know. So when my partner wasn't meeting my unspoken needs, or even my spoken needs because he didn't have the capacity, that's when I would knock him off the pedestal. That's when that energy from my dad is blaming him and holding him responsible, instead of what is it that you need in this moment that I can hold space for. Granted, all repair means that it's going to be integration, because there's self-repair too. But what a beautiful way that we can give ourselves a language to go in and prevent the next fight, prevent the next disconnection, and really truly have a chance to explore relationship and being in relationship together. Savor that love that's there, because I do believe that love is there initially, whether it's from somebody desperately trying to say, please love me, or don't leave me, or I'm loving you. Can't you see that I'm loving you? It just comes out in the behaviors that we never understood or never had a voice for, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
that's so true. Relationship repair language, right? That's your signature system. 6
Yes.
repair languages, each rooted in a core emotional need that tells the nervous system it's safe to come close again. It's not about never fighting, it's about repairing faster and cleaner.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone has a primary repair language, what helps you return first when you're activated, and often a secondary one as well, what helps you stay reconnected once you're back.
Yeah.
It's like an upgraded nervous system aware version of love languages, blending neuroscience, attachment theory, inner child work, and practical repair. The free repair language quiz on your site, laziena.com, helps you discover yours in minutes, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you talk about primary and secondary repair languages. Can you give
Yeah.
us an example of how knowing yours stops a small argument from turning into a 3-day shutdown?
Yeah. So for me, I understood that my love languages is quality time. and physical touch, but we'll go with the quality time one. The quality time one means that it's not just about spending time together, it's being present and connected in the moments because I grew up with a very large family. So being in connection means community for me. It means that I feel belonged, I feel significant, I feel like this pride that I have this special connection with other human beings. And so when I am in community, I like to feel heard. It means that I'm valued here. So if you and I were to get into an argument, my primary language would be empathic. I would want you to come and say, Laziena, I can put myself in your shoe and I understand how you're feeling right now. Do you want to talk about that? And giving me that space to be able to voice that. And that brings
Giving
me
you
back.
that safe space.
Yeah, so that makes me feel safe enough to continue the conversation. My nervous system is like, okay, I feel heard now. I'm good. I have a chance to feel heard. My secondary is the one that brings me back to the connection is the the accountability one because I need you to know how that felt for me. I have been somebody who have been shamed, blamed, and blamed myself, shamed myself, held to the ringer that says you're doing it wrong. You need to do it right. So in my nervous system was geared for like you're wrong and you're not good enough. So when someone says to me that I understand how my behavior impacted you, melts completely. That's all I need. I don't need you to punish yourself. We don't need to go over how and why and all of that. I just need to know that you understand how that affected me without me blaming you or me trying to get you to see it. And that is what I naturally speak to. I feel like I naturally speak all of them, but the very first thing you're going to get from me is I want to know how this has impacted you and I want to know how I played a part and what is it that I can do differently. And so those definitely are my go-to.
Well, that's great, right? Because then you're able to, have that conversation. And I think one of the biggest things people need to realize in a relationship too is, right, both partners have to be able to receive, right? You have to be open
Yes.
to receiving, to receiving. Because if you can't, my past relationship, my biggest thing was all about, she would want to have a simple conversation. I would look at her and say, I don't want to argue. I don't want to fight. I don't want to argue, right? And she wasn't even trying to fight or argue. She was just trying to have a conversation, right? And I look back now and I say to myself, wow, how much I truly just was avoiding everything. That was my way of avoiding everything for so long. I don't want to fight and argue. I don't want to fight and argue, but I also wasn't able and open to receiving it, you know? So now that I'm open and able to receiving it, those conversations are so powerful and so much stronger, right? Because you're opening yourself up to being able to have that conversation where before I wasn't able to.
Mm-hmm. And isn't it interesting? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead. What
I
were
was
you
about
going
to
to say?
say, isn't it interesting that when you're not able to receive how much of a block that is to
Oh
connection,
my God.
it's
It
like
is
someone can apologize to you, but it would mean nothing. It's like they're
nothing.
pouring into a vortex and the avoidance it's not necessarily just a man thing. I'm not a man hater. Like because I've been having to go into my masculine energy and fall in love with that, I understand, the things that men have to go through. But most guys, they don't want to argue. They don't want to fight because that's what they saw. That's kind of what they were
Yeah.
around. It's already enough that I'm not enough and now I'm going to be blamed for something and that's just like an internal battle that's going on there and I think it's important for women to understand that too. When a guy says he doesn't want to fight and argue, the reassuring thing to say is that, like sit down, create safety first, have a soothing, a co-regulating experience that can be eye gazing, it can be going and sitting under the stars, whatever it is that can create that nurturing feeling. So, and letting him know, like, I know this might be heavy for you, but I'm not leaving and I'm not here to blame you. This may get difficult, but I'm still here and I'm willing to go through it. And I think a lot of guys would appreciate that.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm willing and able to work through it, But also, too, Lazina, one of my biggest things was also pretending almost. Yeah, I could say pretending, right? Pretending that I was receiving what they were saying and saying, yeah, we're going to work on it, right? And then I wouldn't do any work.
Hmm.
I would say, let's do the work. Okay. because I was just so afraid of losing her, right? That I would say anything, right? I would say anything, Yeah, we can do the work, and then the work would never come, and then somehow it would be flipped around on her that it was her fault we didn't do the work. But again, it
Mm,
was me because of my avoidance issues, right? Of avoiding it, avoiding everything, avoiding the
yeah.
conversations that needed to be had. And it's powerful. How does the framework, right, help someone in the middle of a rupture actually use it in real time?
So yes, absolutely. I want to touch on something that you said, right? You wouldn't do the work. What is the work, right? The work is so different for every single person. And every single person have had a unique experience where they have had an unacknowledged emotional impact that is triggered whenever they are in conflict. How would you know what the work is, right? And that to segue into that's what the framework is. I like to invite you to the table.
Yeah.
We're not going to get rid of shame because we can't get rid of our feelings. They're teachers, they are signals. But we're going to put shame down and let's bring in curiosity. Here are the 4 things that causes most conflict. How do you behave when you're angry? You're sad, you're overwhelmed, or you're feeling resentful. What is it that you need? What is your body responding to? And how would you like to feel supported? Now, if we have 5 people at this table and we all go through that exercise, isn't it amazing what we're going to learn about each other?
Oh, yeah. It's gonna be all
And
different answers.
so let's say for you, whenever you feel angry, it is because you're not feeling heard. And when you're not feeling heard, your chest is like, you're getting red, you're steaming. What is it that you need? Well, maybe you need the spacious repair language, which has 2 parts, right? One of it is that I really need to think about what's going on here with me right now. And I will come back to this. Or it could be that the spacious repair languages, you have the opportunity to share exactly what you're feeling, throw a giant tantrum, yell, cuss, blame, do whatever it is without hurting anybody, of course. And then we get to see what's underneath that. Now that partner or that coworker or that sibling or whoever that person is, they get to witness how angry you got to the point where you now understand something deeper within you, and that is what you need. Now, let's say somebody is now, no, I think your name is Jimmy. Jimmy, really care about you. I really, really care about you, and I want you to be here. And I just want to reassure you that this relationship is safe. If you're angry, you're not going to receive that. So it's very important for us to know how we like to feel supported. So which one of the repair language is going to help you feel supported? And that's what the test is the quiz gives you the results, right?
Yeah.
So when we are at the table, we learn what our repair language is. So then we know, okay, that one may not work for me, but you know what? This one's going to work for me. So it's being able to be curious and allow it. We may have to let's say you're there with a parent and you're going to say, well, when I'm angry, it's because of, mom yelled at me when I was 2 years old and I was just trying to show her my report card. But when I'm at work now, this has made me become so anxious and I'm over pleasing and I need validation so badly. And so when I'm at work and I'm angry, I don't want to talk to nobody and I'm pushing people away and I just have to get this done. Or when I'm overwhelmed, I'm like completely overwhelmed. I don't want to talk to nobody and you're not going to help me. I don't want any help. I just need to shut down and do this thing. But in the meantime, now I've just alienated 12 people. So in that moment, if I know that your repair language when you're angry is the soothing one, again, it sounds soothing and it may sound like I gotta hold you, but it's not necessarily that, right? It's like we can go outside and you can put your heart on your hand and we can do a meditation together or, we can do something that would make you feel comfortable. That has to be an exploration within you. Or if I am very upset and you notice that I'm coming from resentment, that means that I need an opportunity to blame. So you're going to come to me, Laziena, I think you need some space. Let's go outside underneath the tree. I'm bringing a stick for you and let's get this anger out, right? So that way I can get that. And now I feel supported. I'm not mad at you anymore. We are in this together. So that's kind of the framework when it comes to the repair language, but it's also in corporate, right? So it's switching it from, instead of soothing, it's a pause. Instead of accountability, it's clarity. Instead of empathic, is understanding. So it's being able to create those spaces where we can actually practice this as a team, whether it's romantic, familiar, friendship, and go around and we get to learn so much about each other. We get to really take, again, that shame can be there, but shame also teaches us when we're out of alignment. So if I'm angry and I'm behaving this way, and now this is the first time I've ever had that opportunity to share what makes me angry or how I feel or what is it that I need, that alone makes shame like not almost disappear, but shame hates its name. So we just
Yeah.
brought it to the light and it no longer has a power over us because we can name it. So
Yeah.
it's a simple foundation, but it requires commitment. It requires wanting to do it differently and being okay with letting the space be what it is so that we can learn about each other.
Yeah. And so emotional safety, right? The foundation. Emotional safety isn't a luxury. It's
No.
a birthright. Your work teaches the emotional safety protocol, nervous system informed practices that honor truth without rushing it. When one person's nervous system is flooded and the other keeps pushing, connection dies. Repair language gives you the exact words and actions that soothe the nervous system so repair can actually happen. What does emotional safety actually feel like in the body? And how does someone know when they've lost it versus when they've regained it?
That's so important. I think it has so much to do with being so present with yourself. And that is where self repair really comes in. Because if I've never had a present mom and dad, and by 0 to 3 is when I learn emotional safety, what does that look like? I've gone my whole life not knowing what emotional safety even means. So, my cat, can you hear her?
Yeah, that's okay.
Like, girl, what is going on with you right now? Yeah, so emotional safety really is somebody's own there, it's up to the person. And that is a deep dive that we need to go to really understand what that looks like because we never had words for it. So the test, the quiz, that's 30 questions, and those questions are going to address your emotional needs and your emotional safety and give you a language for it. It's something that we've never had before. We had to kind of figure it out. And then we end up becoming codependent on other people to help us figure that out. So it's a big gap in understanding what our own emotional safety was. I had to find that out by going deeper into my love language. What are my emotional needs and what makes me feel safe? If I don't know what my emotional needs is, then I don't know what keeps me safe. So it's definitely a practice that I had to do with myself. And I really believe that the repair language, if anybody has taken those 30 questions, it'll make a lot of sense as to like why we behave the way we do because it's not a label, it's a deep dive within who we are. And so it's not a one size fit all because I may not have had my emotional needs met when I was 6 years old and I saw my father passing a doll over the fence and I thought that that doll was mine. And somebody said that it wasn't. It was for another daughter. She's not my sister, but a daughter that he had with someone else. And so I made that moment mean that I wasn't worthy and I wasn't good enough. And every decision that I made in my life reinforced that belief. It wasn't until I was 41 that I realized that happened. So, what does emotional safety look like for me? I had to go straight to my love language and just not only go to my love language, I had to deep dive. What does physical touch mean for me? Physical touch means that I like to feel comforted. I like to feel soft. I like that soft energy because when I was little, I was very loved and I was very cuddled and taken care of. But because I've had those deep emotional impactful moments that was never acknowledged, my nervous system stored that. I stored that. And whenever I'm not feeling safe, it comes up. So I need to now go internally and reparent myself, go back to that moment where I believed that my dad didn't want me and allow myself to feel it out from that space, witness it, as if I'm witnessing someone else, like I'm holding someone else's hand and giving that to myself. Now, when I'm able to give that to myself, then I can easily extend that space to someone else and allow them to be in that space with me. And that creates that safety. Now, the difference with that and trauma bonding is that we don't know that, and then we do that beforehand. So now when we're being intentional and going in to really have that on like deep, when I say deep dive, takes a it takes like exploration. We have to sit with it. It may
Yeah.
not happen, it may not happen right away. It may happen in 2 weeks, and we are one day, 6 months later, we're on the train and it's like, oh, that's why
Absolutely.
I like that, right? So
Yeah.
I like to give people challenges to really get beyond their normal needs. Get beyond the normal, oh well, I just need somebody to tell me that I'm look good. No, it's not that. It's deeper than that. You have to be
Yeah.
willing to go and deep dive. So I hope I answered your question because I felt like I
Yeah.
have so much
No, you
information
definitely
in my
did.
head.
So you have an emotional safety protocol, right?
Mm.
What's one simple practice listeners could use right now when things start to feel unsafe in a conversation?
Mhm. But when it starts to feel safe in a conversation, and depending on that conversation, I would say if you don't know that person or you've never had the conversation about emotional needs, is to definitely say, you need to take some space right now, but make sure we have to add this. Because then we're gonna go into avoidant here. We have to be able to say that you matter to me and you're important, and I honor this connection. So I am going to take the time to see what it is that I need so that we can have a conversation again. And so maybe that will be in 2 hours or maybe it'll be in 3 days. But being able to name that so that other person can not feel left or not feel abandoned. And I don't carry that guilt of leaving that person alone. So now when I'm sitting with myself, I really need to understand what is it that I'm feeling and give myself the space to feel it out. So if I'm sad, trigger the sad. If I'm angry, trigger the angry. Get it out. Allow myself to feel it without shame, without judging myself. Because we tend to do that, especially if we have already been on a healing journey or we are on a journey, we take self accountability. Well, yes,
Yeah.
I'm responsible for it, but if I'm not, insight alone is not going to get me anywhere. I have to have the integration. So the integration looks like maybe laying on a mattress and throwing a giant tantrum and letting you say the words like, why didn't you love me, dad? Or whatever it is that's coming out. Get that out. But also in the back of your mind, just observing. So when you're done allowing that sadness or that anger or whatever it is that you're feeling to come out, start journaling, putting it down on paper. Call a friend, somebody who you trust that's going to listen to what it is and help you observe and not diagnose, analyze, or tell you to do it differently, but be able to say, well, this is what I observe in the way that you're sharing, and this is how it comes up for me. Being able to have community or like that safe person, we all have friends, right? But being able to cultivate that, but genuinely being able to sit with it, sit with it, write it down. It's okay to feel angry. It is okay to feel upset, even if you're blaming somebody else. Get the blame out. You don't have to do that with that person unless you are already in conversation. So if you were upset with me, I would allow that space. I was like, of course, Jimmy, let's do this. I'm here for you.
Yeah.
And you would have
Yeah.
that opportunity to do it. But if you do not, take that time to sit down, literally write down, what am I feeling? I don't know what I'm feeling. Why don't I know what I'm feeling? How can I feel this and I don't know? Get a feelings wheel, because sometimes even if it's anger, underneath anger, it's sadness, underneath anger is shame. So get down to that feeling wheel with it's incredible. I think every home should
Yeah.
have a feelings wheel.
Yeah. This isn't surface level stuff. This is
Yeah,
deep.
you're going deep. I would feel sad because somebody cut me off. No, that's not what it is. It's because you felt disrespected that they cut you off. But why are you feeling disrespected in the first place? Because your voice never mattered, your opinion never mattered, you were not feeling important. These are all things to go back. And there's that aspect of reparenting that's so important because that's who is hurt. There's somebody in there that was never felt safe to be themselves, and that's what's coming up to the surface, and it's just hidden underneath everything else.
Everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you got to dig deep to get to it. So, real life applications, right? Romantic partnerships, rebuilding after betrayal, disconnection, or the slow erosion of intimacy. Parenting, right? Repairing with kids instead of repeating cycles, which is huge for legacy healing. Self relationship and inner child, right? Repairing the relationship with yourself first, so you stop outsourcing safety.
Yeah.
How does this show up differently in parenting, right, versus marriage? And I
Mm-hmm.
know a lot of moms and dads listening are trying to break cycles with their kids.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's a great thing because I'm going to be doing, I just finished a 7-week parenting cohort because I wanted to give parents a chance to do it differently. We were never taught how to do it. And then reparenting can sound like, okay, I hate mom and dad, but it's an acknowledgement. So when it comes to parenting, first and foremost, we got to, as a parent, I had to stop blaming my children for how they were behaving and take responsibility that they learned it from me or they learned it from another parent. And even if they learned it from another parent, it was still my responsibility to show up for them. So I need to take that relational responsibility and get out of this mindset that I need to be right. Because when we're parenting, our kids we want them to listen to us because we want them to see we've had the life experiences, and that's not a good idea. But that doesn't come out that way. It comes out as you're not good enough, you're always messing up, you never listen to me. How does that sound if you were talking to yourself?
Yourself,
When
yeah.
you were being talked to like that, how did that feel? Like that's one of the reasons I said my daughter is me, because that's who I was facing. I was facing myself. Like she gave back to me what I gave to her. And
Yeah.
so as a parent, that can come with a lot of shame. And in my parenting, I tend to used to be so guilty and ashamed of how I parented my children. So I needed them to see how much I've changed. And when I do that from that needing them to validate me, they can feel that energy. They don't want it. They just want to back away. You can never possibly understand me. So as parents, we need to sit down, learn our own repair language, first of all, and understand that this is a human being that's in front of us. And yeah, they may have done something yesterday that you just want to but we were once teenagers. We were once that little kid. And if we
Yeah.
really pay attention to what their nervous system learned and not let the shame of it take over or the need to defend. When my daughter said, Mom, I don't feel like when I'm talking to you, you're hearing me. I feel like you make it about you. I had to listen to that hard truth. I had to
Yeah.
be able to say, you know what, you're right. That is what's happening for me right now. And listen to them, like not listen to respond, not listen to defend, and not listen to prove something, but truly listen. What is it like in their shoe to have to go through whatever it is that they're going through? And so this is something that it would take a while. But once my children saw that I was doing the work, that's what made them believe in me. That's what made them want to do the work with me. But it also came within a very authentic apology to all of them, each of them individually, that I am sorry that I didn't do right by them. I didn't want to say that I parented them the way I knew how or whatever that sounds like an excuse. It's literally like taking accountability that I didn't show up for you, but I'm here now and I want to do it differently. That apology feels soft. Even if they don't react with it right away, their body received it. They know that mom and dad is safe now. And then showing up consistently that way, it's going to start rebuilding that trust and create that relational loyalty, that relational safety that we should have in a family dynamic.
And that we need in a family dynamic as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
So before I get to the last set of questions, right?
Mhm.
Let the listeners know where they can find you.
Absolutely. Facebook, Laziena Hodge, Instagram, Repair with Laziena, TikTok, The Laziena Experience. What is it? LinkedIn, Laziena Hodge, and Laziena.com. I have my quizzes on there, and I also have 3 freebies, downloadables. One is for a teenager, a workbook for a teenager to understand what their emotional needs are. Another one is how you repair with your attachment styles. And I'm also passionate about limiting beliefs around money. And so I have one that's how to regulate your money beliefs, because a lot of times fear. It's fear. So,
Yeah.
um, trying to cultivate it all together.
So, last set of questions, right? Common patterns and breaking cycles. Over explaining, shutting down, chasing, stonewalling. Your framework names these as nervous system responses and gives you the exact repair language to interrupt them. The mantra is repair, don't repeat.
Mhm.
What are the most common repair language mismatches you see? And how does knowing them prevent the same fight from happening every weekend?
The mismatch can, of course, it depends on the person, right? Because if someone is an
Yeah.
avoidant, you don't want to give them space. Well, I guess you would want to give them space, right? That might not be the one to go with. However, okay, so if someone is an avoidant, you don't want to give them presents because they don't want to hear anything at that moment. So being able to give them the space would be better, but not just the space. It would be the one where they can have the freedom to share whatever they need to, and knowing that that is not going to be used against them later on. This is just a moment for you to express what you need. And I think sometimes for me, when I like repair and I like accountability, but the person needs space, that can definitely, it doesn't foster connection. It doesn't bring us close together. And empathic is something I want to hear, right? I want to be able to speak from my heart, and I want to be present with that. And so if somebody is an avoidant and they're trying to soothe me in that space, it's just gonna cause more disconnection than anything else. It's really, really important for us to be able to explore that together. And this is why I it's a repair language, because we don't have to walk away. We don't have to say this is not going to work because of a behavior. We can do this journey together. It does, like
Well, I
we're
think
not.
it's so much easier for a lot of people just to walk away.
Yeah, it
You
is.
know, our
That
society
shame.
now, yeah, well, our society now too has taught us that relationships and marriages aren't worth it, right? They're not worth sticking out. They're not worth fighting for, right?
Hmm.
And I think that's terrible because I think, if you are in a relationship, right? And I'm not saying, an abusive or any of
Yeah.
those things, right? But just one where, you see it all the time. People get married, they have kids, 2, 3, 4 kids, right? And then the marriage goes off the rails because the mom's carrying the load, the dad's at work, right? And the mom's upset at the dad because the dad's not there, but the dad's upset at the mom because he can't catch a break. And when he comes home, all he wants to do is sleep. But things like that, right? Where I think people just think it's so much easier just to disperse the relationship, to get out of the relationship or the marriage, right? But to me, the true test is going through it, right? And learning each other again, learning to love each other again, because you don't have a marriage with someone and then have 2, 3, 4 kids because you're not in love. You do it because you're in love, right? And I think society now, just everything is so disposable nowadays, and it's tough.
I think you're absolutely right, because we also go on our personal development journey and we learn about boundaries, and we use boundaries as walls, and we go into so much protection because the last relationship destroyed us. So now we've rebuilt ourselves. So I'm never letting anybody treat me that way again. And I'm never putting up with this. Instead of, love is going to hurt, and I'm going to need to be vulnerable. I'm going to need to open up. I'm going to need to create safety as well, and looking at the other relationship to see what I can learn from it, instead of how I can protect my cat, how I could protect myself. um, it's so funny because she's not very talkative.
She wants to get her mic time, that's
I
why.
guess so. She's like, Mom's doing something fun. Yeah, but I do find that, boundaries is a boundary to me is saying that I care about you and I want to be in relationship with you. And here's how I can do that. It's up to you to meet me in that space. And if you can't meet me, then maybe that doesn't mean integration, but it doesn't mean that, oh no, you're wrong. I can't deal with this anymore. This is you. We all have triggers, and the triggers is for us to look into. So if you really are, not you, Jimmy, but someone really have narcissistic tendency, I do have to look out for myself. I do have to
Yeah.
communicate healthier, and I do have to leave or do whatever is best for me. But if someone is genuinely a loving person and they never had their voice heard, and and this is me. I was always so angry, and I didn't know it was because I had so much anger and resentment towards my father. And when I was able to release that anger experientially through that 6-year-old version of me, I was no longer that angry. And no,
Yeah.
anger is now my fuel. Anger is now the thing that says you're passionate about this. Instead, I used to punish people. So I lost out on some loving experiences because I didn't know or didn't have the tools or didn't
You
go
didn't have the
deeper.
tools, yeah.
Yeah, and I can look at the deeper I meet myself, and when I see my inner child and I see what is coming up, now I see that in my partner or my friend or my coworker or my children. And so I can have more compassion to why they're behaving the way they are. I'm not looking at the behavior and labeling them that that's how they are. I'm looking at the behavior and saying, okay, well, what is a need under here? Because resentment needs forgiveness. So if resentment is coming out, then somebody obviously it's going to be self-forgiveness, but somebody else needs to be blamed first before we can even get to that forgiveness. Because if we're taking the layers and we're saying, okay, I need to forgive, I'm going to go forgive myself, but I have not even acknowledged where that even came from, what the root cause of that was. It's going to keep coming
Yeah.
back, and it's going to
Coming
keep,
back.
and I'm just going to go back on keep forgiving myself over and
Be the same
over.
cycle.
Yeah. So even that is a cycle. So I do believe that people, you're absolutely right. People do give up very easily and they walk away. And it's not necessarily it can be done differently. It can be done more as a community in togetherness as we're exploring the journey. And we get to learn so much more about each other and really truly see us, like really feel seen and understood in a relationship.
Yeah. So last question, right? For someone stuck in a toxic cycle right now,
Mhm.
what's the very first step using your framework for them to get out of it?
I would very much encourage them to get to map their emotional needs. They would need to take the time, of course, see a therapist, make sure they have a coach, make sure they're safe,
Yeah.
but definitely learn what your emotional needs are. And the path that I took was learning about my attachment style and my love languages. Because love languages teaches us how we like to be loved, and attachment is how we push it away. So actually go in and see, how am I sabotaging, and what is it that I need, and which one of my love language can meet that sabotage. So when I'm an avoidant and let's say I felt disrespected, so I pushed away or I pulled away and I didn't know that I felt disrespected, I just know that I didn't like this, then go journal it, map it down. And in my book, it also has a real life guide. It really breaks it down how you can meet that need. It takes you there so you can map
Yep.
what your needs actually
Gives you
are,
a
because
roadmap.
yeah, because everybody's different. Everybody's so different. So physical touch might be what I need to give to myself, and that doesn't have to be physical touch from someone else, and it doesn't have to be sexual. It just means that
Yeah.
I like warm. I can go to a pool, I can go to a sauna, I can take a warm bath, have a heated blanket, or even those weighted blanket, whatever makes me feel comforted. And sometimes I love wearing like costumes, like the onesie, the hoodies, or I love being warm. So I'm always in like some
Yeah.
kind of a cozy blanket or jacket, and pairing that with my favorite color as a child. So I literally take I have this is a good one. This thing that I do, I visualize, right? For 30 days, I am separating myself from my inner child. She is like a little child with me when I'm brushing my teeth, when I'm using the bathroom, when I'm driving, whatever is going on, she's there with me. Even when I'm driving, I'm buckling the seatbelt like she's there, literally. So whenever I feel angry, I'm looking to her like, what is it that you need? Why are you angry? And that gives me a chance to really look and go deeper into me and understanding what my emotional needs are and what I'm missing.
Yeah. So, Laziena, I just wanted to say thank you, right?
Thank
Sitting
you.
here talking with you feels like a deep breath for the soul. The way you speak about love, repair, and coming back to the safety, it's powerful, it's gentle, and it's exactly what so many of us need right now. You didn't just write a book, you created a bridge back to each other, and that matters more than you know. Listen, family, if this conversation stirred something in you, don't let it just be another podcast episode. Go take Laziena's free repair language quiz right now at lazina.com. Grab our book, The Relationship Repair Language. Try one repair tool this week with somebody you love. And if you're hurting in your relationship right now, whether it's with your partner, your kids, your family, or even yourself, know this: repair is possible. Healing is possible. You don't have to stay stuck. Laziena, thank you for bringing your light and your wisdom to the show today. If this hit anybody, you guys listening, share it with somebody who needs it. Tag a friend, a partner, a parent. Spread this medicine. We'll catch you on the next one. Keep choosing repair. Keep choosing love. Much love to every single one of you. And thank you so much, Laziena, for joining us.
Thank you for having me. And I aim to be reachable. So if anybody needs to just talk, I am here.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you.